Hello, class. Let's go ahead and start through F through G. And so if your last name starts with F or G in this case, then this is the video set for you. I do, as always, encourage you to watch all the video feedback to get an idea of other ways to apply these tools and techniques. But if you're, crunched for time, this is the one that you're going to want to definitely check out so you can see how you got the grade that you got and what's going on, and what to do next time to keep getting those good grades and what to avoid to keep from getting dinged on little things. So without further ado, let's delve into it. This is really cute. Look at that. That's adorable. All right, we have a background layer. This for some reason does not look black. I'm going to double check that. No, we've got a 27% brightness instead of 0% brightness for the black. So that was one little requirement on that. As you can see, size requirements, blah, blah, blah. Fill the background layer with black. We've got that going on. And it should say, what, let me double check the PDF. It should say the exact same stuff, but can't hurt to double check that I didn't lead you all astray. Let's see, fill the background layer with black. Beautiful. All right, so that's still there. That's still going strong. So don't forget that. We've got the original photo. These are named correctly. Thank you. That's what I want to see. We've got the edited photo. Brilliant. And we have a curves adjustment doing its job. Good work on that. And we've got this set at within the correct size, perfect, and at the working resolution. Brilliant, brilliant. Named correctly. Love it. All right, let's take a look at the curves and see what's going on here. See if I've got any suggestions. So a lot of brightening essentially happening in it, targeting the child's face for the most part. You may have had you notice this kind of, I described it as crispiness, but it's really an artifacting. See this posterization that's starting to occur, generally due to low data. And so you have to load data. I mean, in the case of a photograph, a digital photograph, by low data, what I'm referring to is that the lighting wasn't good enough for the specific subject to capture it. And by good enough, wow, it's getting into some detail here. By good enough, I mean not customized to bring out the details of what you're working with. And sometimes you want that and sometimes you don't. But you can see the same sort of damage occurring in the initial image. And so what do you do with that? Honestly, more lighting, but this is a baby. How are you going to get the baby to give that little adorable baby look again? You're not. So you get what you have and you work with it. And I think you did a pretty good job on it. That said, let me take a quick crack at it and see what I can come up with. So I'm just going to turn off your curves adjustment layer and create one of my own. And see what I can get out of it, just in case there's something there that might be a useful tip for you. So first thing first, I'm holding down the Alt key and I'm clicking so that the curves joins this clipping mask stack. Notice how everything's tabulated in a little bit. It's off to the right, and we have these tiny arrows on it. That means that it's part of a clipping mask, or clipping layer, I should say, which means it's using the layer below it as a mask. Anything that does not have an active pixel on the layer all the way at the bottom of the stack, this case right here, edited photo, we'll turn this off. You can see how we have active layers, active pixels on that layer to the right. No active pixels here, it's just transparent. So all of these adjustments, as long as they're in this clipping layer stack, will treat this layer as a mask and only affect what's happening right here, which means anything below it will be unaffected, which is the whole point of the assignment. And I'm sure you guys remember that. But just in case you're watching these reviews a few weeks later and you're wondering what on earth I'm talking about, there you have it. So first things first, I'm just going to hold down the Alt key and start bringing this in so I can see what I'm clipping to. And the red is clipping up to white pretty quickly, so you can get an idea that this is a somewhat frail image, and it gives you an idea. As long as you're not clipping to white, it's probably okay, but you're going to get it blown out pretty fast. So you have to make that decision early on. How much damage are you going to do to it? How much is acceptable for where it is? So I'm just going to do a little bit, and we'll pull back later if necessary. Now I'm going to go ahead and come in on the other side, and I'm okay usually with clipping to black a little bit more, because oftentimes the eye, if you're looking at something in the light, your eye is generally not going to pick up a lot of the shadows. So it's more forgiving to clip away because you're not going to notice it. Now, if you're looking at something dark and you're clipping those dark things to black really fast. In other words, you're converting a really dark gray to black and the whole image is mostly dark gray. Well, you're losing all your details. So you kind of have to use your best judgment on this. But I'm just going to clip a little bit in, just a little bit, just to start increasing the dynamic range on it. Right now, it doesn't look any better really than the photo to its left, the original photo. But then I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to start with my oldie goldie. What happens with an S-curve? Well, it gets it far too dark. And you immediately see why this student used a sort of outer curve. I'm going to repeat that process. And you can see that I'm getting the exact same types of damage to the image. It's starting to come out a little bit more. So that's something you have to look out for. Now, when we start going into... I'm blanking. What's the term for those things? The filters, the filter gallery. We can start doing surface blur to start taking care of stuff. We haven't gotten there yet, but the idea is it would look something like this. First, so again, we're going to cover this later. First, you want to make sure that you've got this as a smart object so that you can do a masking effect to what's called a surface blur. And what a surface blur is going to do is look for the hard thresholds. In other words, notice how we just zoom in, like to the point that we can't even see what's going on. We have a soft gradient, and then suddenly it's a darker thing going on. This would be considered a threshold. It goes from light to dark. And then you do an adjustment to say this whole patch is one thing, and then where you hit this light, this whole patch is another thing. Then you kind of smush those together with a blur. That's really what surface blur does. Again, we'll cover this in depth later, but we'll just go to filter, blur, and surface blur. Surface blur, wherever you are. There you are. Surface blur. Yeah, we'll use the defaults that I had from last time. Tell it okay. So right away, it doesn't look good, right? But that's what the mask is for on this thing. You just fill it with black. You come in with a brush, and you make it a nice soft brush. And you set to like 20% or something. And then you can start getting rid of some of this harsh pixelation transition with the surface blur effect. And notice that if I cross the mouth or something, it leaves it mostly alone. And so it's a very subtle effect at this point, but you can make it a stronger effect if you so desire by adjusting those settings. Again, we'll talk about those a little later in the semester. But there are ways essentially to cover up some of the pixelization and posterization that occurs on these slightly more brittle images, these images that, you know, have an area that's not in the best lighting on some sections and in good lighting in other sections, so that you can kind of patch stuff up and fix things just a little bit. And so we'll talk about that more as the semester progresses, but just a little heads up on that. And so just a subtle effect. I'm not going for a full repair. Whoops, wrong button. And here it is without it, with it. See how we can kind of patch stuff in. And if you feel it goes too far, well, guess what? Great news. It's reversible because it's a smart layer. And again, we'll talk about all this later in the semester. Let's get a nice hard brush. And we'll crank this up to 40%. I'm just tapping the 4 on the top of the keyboard. And X to flip to white. That'll let me clean up a little bit of that area. There we go. So you just do something like that. But that's unfair for me to do because that's not something that I've shown you how to do yet. But I just wanted to let you know there are ways to go about it. Oh, was I painting straight on this for 20%? All right. Well, whatever. Let's bounce this back to convert to smart object. We'll just bounce that back to the beginning there. All right. So with the tools that you do have, what would be the next step that you want to take? Probably some color adjustments. We can do that with curves as well. I'll just come in real quick and toss on another curves adjustment layer. Hello, curves. And this time, again, I'm going to click this to update the graph so that it's not something that was cached in from earlier when it last did its calculations, but instead recalculates to show me something a little more accurate. All right, I'm going to pop over to red. Click on red. This seems a little red, so I'm going to tackle. Oh, maybe not. I don't want it too green either. So let's get rid of some of that green. Here we go. Let's go back to red. Oh, it's so red though. Oh, this is a tricky one. Look at that. Look how red it is in one spot. And this is the issue with what I was saying, brittle imagery. Which again occurs from things like low light vision. I literally hit this red couch just so I can bring down the red a little bit. Got some magenta now going on. Wow, I'm doing a terrible job with this color adjustment. Here we go. Oh man. This is bad. Don't look. See, wow, that's really bad. It's really bad. All right, let's take a look. Didn't work out super well. It's a little bit better, but let's do that one more time. I'm going to reset this whole thing. Click the reverse, back to square one. Do this one more time. I'm going to start in green because I did not realize how green this image is. I'm going to use the on-screen adjustment. I gotta get rid of some of that green. And where else is that green? There's actually a green ball right there, so I don't want to touch that. That's where it should be. And now we're seeing all of the the magenta and stuff in things, which isn't really what I want either. That's tricky. All right, the greens seem to be mostly in the shadows, if I'm reading this right. I don't want magenta. There we go. There. All right. Okay, step one. Now I'm going to go to the blue and tackle that first. And what was it we did last time that started to work? It needed some blue, but not very much and not in the mid-tones. All right, now we can see this red overcast. There we go. Something like that. Now we've got this red overcast. I can't hit it. I want to select it right on the baby's face, but that's not where the damage is. There we go. Now I've darkened everything, right? So what do I do to counter that? I set this to the color mode. And now it will not affect anything other than color. And I've really got too much blue still. I think it's in here. There we go. That looks better. All right, so before, after. That's better. There's still some fiddling that you could do, but I've been at this for about 12 minutes here, so I'm sure that the rest of you want me to move on to your assignment. So we'll hit it up with one more thing here. I'm going to crank up the vibrance. Kaboom. And I'm just going to turn down the saturation a little bit because it seems a little oversaturated, but at the same time, I'm going to increase the vibrance on it. So we'll desaturate, but increase vibrance. Now, I don't think it's as warm as the first one. That's going for the color adjustments, of course. So let's do a comparison. Maybe you beat me on this. Let's see. Here's yours. Here's mine. And let's toggle back and forth in the history. If I can. Oh, I've zoomed in too much. All right. Oops. Okay, here's yours. Oops. Man, I'm bad at this now. Here's mine. Get rid of that one. Okay. Yours. Hold on. One more time. Here's mine. Mine, yours. Mine, yours. So mine's a little bluer, has a bit more shadows in it. Yours has a little more yellow, a little more details. So it depends on really what you're after. I like my color adjustments, I think. I like the brightness you have in yours. I think you did a better job brightening that up. So good job on your curves. So what's all this mean now that I got into the end of this run? Just do some color adjustment. That's it. I think you'll be squared away and happy with the result. I think you did a good job on your curves. So real quick, what happens if I just toss on my color adjustment to your curves? I think we get the best of both worlds. So good job on the curves. Just do a color adjustment. Make sure that the background is actually filled with black and not gray. The fastest way to figure out what it is to take a sample of it So I'm just going to double click the color square here and the active color, foreground color. That will give me the eyedropper. I can click on it and read right here that brightness is 27. The other easy way to do it is to go to the color tab. No, not the color tab. I always get that mixed up. The info tab, and then go on to the eyedropper tool. And then when you click on it, you can see that even when you mouse over it, take a look over at this. These will pop up. I don't want to lay down a little dot. Well, I guess I can. Well, if you look over there, you can see that RG and B are at 68, 68, 68. That is not black. 0, 0, 0 would be black. All right, that's everything on this particular assignment. Good job overall. Just a couple little things. Add some color adjustments and set that to black. Cool. Let's move on to the next submission. Boop. Don't save. All right. Ooh, I like this. What's going on here? See that I was poking around at stuff earlier. So like this one, let's see what's happening. Let's turn off the curves. So here's the original. Oh, right. That's what I found out. So it's coming back to me. So we've got the background image, which is black. We've got the original image and we've got the edited image. Good job, good job, good job. Twice the size. Perfect. This is the wrong resolution and size. This is the sort of damage that you normally see happen if you saved for web instead of just saving as. So that will absolutely destroy everything that you are working on. I think that's like exports, not save for web legacy, but somewhere in here it's like a save for web or save as that is not the correct one, and it does like severe damage to everything you're doing. What you want to do when you're saving as is just go file save as. And like literally don't touch anything other than save as and you'll be fine. But if you start monkeying around with some of the settings in here, we get into a bunch of these later in the semester. For some reason I'm not seeing it on this version, but I know it's in here somewhere. There's this very damaging like export save as or save for web or something that messes it up every single time. And so watch out for that. If you're not going either save or save as, then the only thing you ever need to use in this class besides save or save as is export save for web legacy. And I will tell you exactly when to do that. That's when we're doing animations later in the semester. Otherwise, watch out. So let's take a look and see what's happening on this image size, since everything is not what it's supposed to be. We've got 150. Oh, hold on. I'm going to turn off resample. Let's see if it's just a simple case of getting messed up. No, even at 150, the height is within acceptable parameters. The width is, I believe, way overboard. It's not supposed to be bigger than 10 by 10 on that going in, which is over the top. I thought that was 12 by 12. Oh, man. Guys, watch out. So if you have it, I updated one and not the other. So 12 by 12 is acceptable. Dang. What happened here? I rewrote this whole thing. Shoot. So that's on me. So yeah, don't worry about that. It's fortunately it's within the parameters. It's not like oversized. As long as you guys are doing no bigger than 12, it's fine. And this is unfortunately 25 inches, which is way too big. Also, the resolution's wrong, so watch out for that. So here we go. We've got a black background, which is indeed solid black. Great job on that. We got everything named correctly. Beautiful. We have everything named right in here. Love it. And we've got now this is a problem with the adjustment layers off. These two things should look identical. So I don't know what's going on there. Some adjustments were done outside of it. We should see, okay, and this is more problematic. These should be clipped down to the edited image like this. If you hold down the Alt key and click between them, it will do it and we'll clip onto it. You can see that you know, something's going on. So let's take a look at what this is supposed to look like. I'm going to turn this one off, grab a new copy right here, and get that out of the layer stack. And this is what we should be looking at. And you can see that some things have gone wrong. So what's happening? Let's find out. Pop into, it says sky, but it doesn't have any kind of masking on it. So that's step one. It's something just called brushes. Let me pop up in the properties. So brushes is not set to anything. It's just, well, it's got a little bit of a clip, but it's, you know, just a tiny bit. So I shouldn't say it's not set to nothing. It's set to very little. And then this one is just a hard cut on it. So let's see what we can really do with this. I'm just going to create a new curves adjustment layer, and I'm going to make sure it clips to the, let's call this, oops, wrong button. Click right on the name. We'll just call this edited image. So we've got this curves and it's set to this edited image. Let's get in here and work on this. I'm going to hold down the Alt key and see what clips to what as I drag in. I can really get in there. And I don't mind a little bit of clipping to black. Already that's looking a little bit better than the original image on the edited image. And I'm just going to do kind of a reverse S curve on this. All right, that alone I think does a pretty solid job. Probably some color adjustments we could do, but let's do that on a separate curves. I'll call this color curves. Update that by clicking the update button there. Set this to color mode, the color blending mode. So that leaves everything else alone. And let's just dig in here. This with the on-screen adjustment. See that I can play around with stuff immediately. So where do we want what? I'm going to turn down the blue in the dark area just a bit. And maybe in the light area. There we go. Just a smidge. Kind of brighten that up a bit. Take a look at the red. I see some magenta overlay. That should be the reverse of green. Unless I'm... Yeah. And so we got to get rid of a little magenta in the sky. Just a touch. There's kind of this oversaturated green in here. And there's, again, too much magenta. Wow, what's happening here? It might be my screen at this point, because I've been seeing magenta on the last couple images, and I'm not really sure if they have that much. There we go. Okay. Okay. Let's hit up the red. See, too much red in here. There we go. Oh, that's better. Oh, nope, did something. I don't think that's better. Oh, it's better. It's just more that needs to be done. So let's hit it one more time. It's that green. Just having a lot of... Let's look at the actual green channel, see what's going on here. So you can see in the red how we have this great dynamic range from the very lights to the very darks. The blue even has quite a bit going on. The gray's just kind of washed out, and that's true on both of these images, which is why we're having some problems with it. It's all kind of the midtones. If it had more between it, it would be a little bit easier. In other words, if it had lighter lights and darker darks, which is what we have a better time targeting it. Maybe more like that. Those clouds don't look super healthy. Now I've made everything green. You can see this is very fiddly. There we go. And a lot of this is just preference. Ugh, so much green. Yeah. Let's reset it. Start over from scratch. It's going to be better this time. Start on the green channel this time. And why? Because we got some magenta we know about now. So we're going to hit up... See, at this point, it's time to do masking because this sky needs to have that magenta knocked out of it, but the tree does not. It's like having problems on it. So my suggestion, I'm not going to sit here and do this for the next 25 minutes. So what you would do is basically toss a big old mask on the sky, and you've got all the masking tools from way back on assignment 2. You hit all that up so that you have the tree and the foreground masked so that you can do the sky layer separately. I would even mask the color adjustments so that you do the tree layer separately as well, and then the foreground, because there's, again, on the green channel, there's just not enough separation between each of these. So you have to tackle each of them separately, and you've got to do that through masking. but again, it's going to take me like 25 minutes to build those masks and do those adjustments. So I'm just going to say that is what you need to do. So let's take a look at what we've got. Again, I think my color adjustments are not particularly good because we would need to go in. So I'm just going to do, man, it's bad color adjustments. So still, here we have what I've done. Let's take a look at the original. So you can see there is more work to be done. The main thing is I don't know what happened with your edited image to have all those effects applied to it. That's not what we need. We need to see the curves. You need to make sure that you put the clipping mask, or sorry, the clip to layer, so that it treats it as a clipping mask, so that we can look at the side-by-side comparison of the images. So that's really where it's at. Because of the challenge of the green channel, you want to come on in and do color adjustments 3 times, once for the tree, once for the clouds, and once for the foreground. Once you do all those color adjustments, it will be ready to roll. So that's where that is. Otherwise, good job on naming everything. Let's go back to the beginning and take a look at that. Actually, this should just be edited image, not edited image copy. Should say that. All right, so that's my advice. Let's go ahead and roll on to the next submission. And of course, the one major thing here before I forget, the size is nowhere what it's supposed to be. So always make sure, read it one more time before you turn it in, because a lot of times I'll say like work at a higher format or something. Then you just have to do your adjustments like I showed how to do with the image size. All right, on to the next one. All right, let's hope that the next one is not another frail green channel. I'm getting tired of that. Let's go for a frail red channel this time or something. All right. Okay. Let's take a look. A lot of nice masking going on. A really good job. Very nice. Look at that. I like it. Let's check everything here. It's within the required size. It is the correct resolution. It is named correctly. We have enough adjustment layers to choke a file. Beautiful. Love it. We've got them clipped down to the edited photo. Everything is named correctly. Edited photo, original photo, background. And on background, we clearly have some black going on. Yep. Lovely. Love it. Love it. Love it. Good job. That's all the bookkeeping stuff. Let's take a look at all this. So we have curves for the ocean and the sky. Very nice. You can see the boat in that one. We have the sand. We've got curves on that. Very careful curves. Beautiful. Got the cave. Very nice. Really opened that up. One thing I really appreciate in this is how the student spent time making sure that even though there's a nice cut mask between it, it looks like a single image. They worked really hard to ensure everything blended well together. You can see these lovely masks. Oh, look at that. Great work. Wow. Changing the lightness. This is beautiful. All right. Well, I'll say this. I could do it differently, but you definitely, I wouldn't say that I would do any better. I could just make different decisions. You made the decisions you did very clearly. I appreciate them. I think maybe some color adjustment on the water would be about as far as I would recommend changing things. Whoa. If I could not destroy your clipping mask. So what I'm just going to do is duplicate this whole thing. And then on the duplicate here, I'm going to reset it. Oh, I broke everything. Clip that all back in. Sorry about that. All right. On this one, I'm going to set it to color. Check that out. We got color now. You can come in. Now look at the channels real quick. Get an idea of what's going on where. Going to go to green. I'm still, whoops, forgot to turn everything back on. Go. Start at green. that we have some green here. That's a little too blue. And once you've done all that, I just want a little touch of this. I don't want a whole thing. So you're going to go to the opacity. And I'm just going to turn it to about 36%. So without it, with it. That'd be about it. I don't know if you'd want to do a color adjustment on everything else. Let's see. Let's flip it around. Come in with the curves. Hello, curves. And I'm going to get rid of the default mask. Delete that. I'm going to steal this nice mask you have here by holding down Alt and dragging it up here. I'm going to set this whole thing back to color. Oh, I've got it backwards. Set this whole thing to color. I'm going to invert this mask. Control I. Beautiful. And then I'm going to come in here and start at the red channel. On-screen adjustment. I'm going to actually add a little bit of red in. Just a little bit. To the sand. Or to the cave, and then take a little bit out of the sand. You go to the green. I'm going to add a little bit green in to kill some of that magenta. Not too much, just a little bit. Very careful there. I've overdone it. Go back to the red. I actually got to reset this because I really overdid it on the green. Let's do this one more time. We're going to start on the green. I'm having a hard time with green today. It's making me think that I need to recalibrate my monitor. Okay, there. 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 Okay. Red next. There we go. And a little bit of blue. There we go. There we go. All right. Let's see if I did a good or a bad adjustment. Are you a good witch or a bad witch? A little too much. So, knock that down. There we go. Just a touch. All right. So to give you an idea, here it is originally. Wait. I move this to the side. There we go. Here it is originally. Here's now. Before. After. So a little bit of color adjustment. I think I'd even cut back a little bit on the one that I did here. Even a little less. There we go. So that would be my only suggestion. I think everything else is absolutely beautiful. Just a bit of a color adjustment. And I don't think even very much. I think I have far too much going on. Yeah, more like that. Just a touch. Just a little touch. Because overall, you did an absolutely gorgeous job on this. Wonderful, wonderful work. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next submission. In fact, to the last one in this set, and then we'll move on to another video. Wow. Oh, that's a lot of damage you had to work with. All right. Someone is going for gold. Look at all of that. So this is a really washed out image, just like blur, probably taken from either on a windy day or from a car while it's moving, high oversaturation, but it's a really interesting area. It's such an interesting photo that you definitely would want to get a good look at it. So a lot of this data is going to end up being created almost whole cloth through adjustment layers, and that's let's take a look and see everything going on. First things first, named correctly, beautiful. You've got everything clipping, wonderful. You've got it the correct size, excellent. Right resolution, it's even named correctly, love it. All right, so all the bookkeeping stuff, it's out of the way. We're going to take a quick look-see at the channels. original and after. Wow, you had very little to work with, and you pulled a lot out of it. Very nice. Oops, let's go back to layers. Let's take a look at each of the adjustments. So you started by cutting things in. You did a nice swoop. Good job. You did your masking, and then you tackled the foreground, and then you did the sky separately, but there's not really any data in the sky. Look at that. It's like zeroed out. And that makes sense. This is just washed out. What would you do if it wasn't this assignment? You put in a different sky. But this assignment, you did exactly what you're supposed to do. There was nothing to work with. So what's left to do here? Maybe play with the saturation levels a little bit. Let's take a quick crack at that. Just gonna toss on a vibrance because it happens. Let me get in there. Vibrance happens to have saturation levels, so you can increase saturation or decrease saturation. You can decide what would look better. And you may even decide that it may look better a little more saturated or a little less, but you also have vibrance. And I think, see, you can have high saturation, low vibrance, has a very different effect from high vibrance. Here, let me turn off saturation. Here's what vibrance does. Get it? So it's bringing in details and taking out some. It's basically thresholding and then increasing the thresholding. It's finding the thresholds again, like we saw in the face of the lady holding the baby. It looks for areas of sudden change, and then it either creates a further change between those two areas or less of a change between those areas. But it does it across all the channels, which means that you end up with a more vibrant image. So, just given how pretty this area is, probably just increase the saturation a little bit, although maybe not in here. I'd probably mask out the buildings. Take a while, but be worth it. And maybe even increase the saturation. Just a very subtle change. There you have it. In fact, we could crank this up more. Not that much. Maybe more along those lines. Just a bit. Give it a little more of a punch. All right. That said, given what you had to work with, you did a stellar job. Let me take a quick crack at it. I don't think I'm going to get much of a better effect. This is incredibly challenging. I could probably spend about a day on it to get it like nice and crisp and really work out all the tools. But for this assignment, I think you did exactly what I was asking for. You really cut in here. It's crazy. Look at how little data you have to work with. You did such a wonderful job on it. Yeah, about the same. I'd probably tackle this in a couple of pieces, much like you did. I think if I had the time, this would be a long one. So here's my suggestion. If you wanted to take this any further, and I don't know if you want to or not. Your review. If you want to take it further, what you would do is come in and mask out the buildings and treat them separately from the plants, because you could do more, the trees. So you could do adjustments in these trees through your curves adjustment layer. I'm just going to toss one on the top real quick to show you what I mean. Curves. See, you can grab those trees and you can start pulling those in a lot more. But if you do that, you're going to be affecting everything else. Actually, that looks all right. It's not too bad. The other thing you might want to do before, after, it's not too bad. Maybe a little less of the shadows. But if you really want to get it, you'll want to go in and cut out the trees. You can see that you can do some more improvements with an overall adjustment. And you may want to do a color adjustment. I've been having bad luck with these today. And the vibrance and saturation a little bit lower down. Pop this over and we'll just set it to color mode. Get this refreshed. And pop over to green first. So I've been having such a hard time with green. Now, since I've already adjusted the vibrancy, it's a little easier to work on the color at this point. There we go. So some color adjustments. Something like that. All right, so before, after. So there's still a little bit further you can push this, and the secret here is to start with the vibrance so that you have a bit more to lock onto when you go in all the way down to the color and then do the color adjustment on that. So those are my suggestions, and just one more time. Again, look at the work he did. That's incredible. I love it. Here it is before and after. So color would be the next place that I'd target. Again, start low down with some vibrancy so that you can increase the vibrancy just a bit here. I did plus 50, and then I lowered the saturation, make it less of a pronounced effect. That allowed me to lock on a little bit better when I was doing the curves. And by lock on, because as you saw earlier at the caves, or no, which one was it? Not the caves. It's the one before that. Oh, shoot, how am I already forgetting these? As you saw earlier on, having a brittle image is rough to work on. You want something that has a lot of contrast in each of the layers, and vibrancy can help with that. That can grant more contrast overall, and once you have more contrast overall, you could do a color adjustment a little more easily. I also did an overall curves adjustment to increase the shadows or the distance between the shadows and the highlights to really make it pop. And so one last time. So again, sorry, I got distracted. The cat wanted some attention. The highlights and the shadows, I just put a curve on that to push those apart a little bit more. So again, a little more work that can be done. Overall, I'm very impressed with what you've done so far. Needs very little work to really push it a bit further and, you know, knock it up to that last little step. Beautiful job. All right, that's it for this set of videos. We've still got some more assignments to grade through, so if you haven't seen yours, go ahead and keep playing through. I will see you in the next set of videos. Good job.